the dates inside the post list look neat. It would be nice to be able to reuse this functionality around our application wherever we need to display a date. At the moment, we could use this feature to present the dates within the thread list in the home page. Right now, we are displaying the thread published at as a timestamp. In order to not repeat what we did in the previous lesson, we should export the functionality related to the date into a dedicated component. What would be an appropriate name for this component? The first thing I can think of is date.view. Though this is not safe, since component names must contain at least 2 words to not collide with native HTML tags. Additionally, if you were to import the dateView component into a variable named date, you would have a conflict with the global JavaScript date object. So, something like forum date or date present would be acceptable, but the Vue.js style guide gives us a great recommendation. Base components that apply app-specific styling and conventions should all begin with a specific prefix, such as base, app, or v. According to this rule, anything among base date, update, and vdate is the best practice. I prefer base date or update. Thus, I will go with update, and since the editor lists the components alphabetically, we will have all the application-based components listed in the beginning of the components directory. Okay then, let's do this. I will first copy the HTML from the post list component to updates template. Within the template, we don't want the post-specific class, post-date, and actually, I don't think we should style the date here at all. This way, any component that uses update will be able to style it based on its needs. So I will remove both classes and I will switch div to span. Then, instead of using the post.publishedAdd property in this component, we will have a generic timestamp variable that should be passed from the parent component that is using update. Thus, our component needs to be passed a timestamp prop to know what time to render. The timestamp prop should be required and a number. Ideally, we would want the timestamp to be an integer, but in JavaScript, you do not have specific types for numbers, like integers or floats. So, we need to use a general type, which is number. Okay, now we need the methods that transform the timestamp to human-friendly dates. I will move them over from post list. The update component needs to import date.js and the needed plugins in order to use all these features. So we will move this here too. Great. Let's review this component. Since we have the timestamp in a prop here, our methods should not need to accept an argument. So we should remove this. Instead, we should transform the this.timestamp, which is our prop. We also do not need to pass the timestamp to the methods when we call them in the template. This looks good. Let's use it within post list. I will import the component and then register it in the components option. Now, let's update the template. The timestamp we want to present here is the post.publishedAt. Let's check it out in the browser. And it works great like before, but this time we have a dedicated component that includes all this logic. So let's go on and use it in thread list. In the template, we need to replace the thread published at with update timestamp thread published at. Switch back to the browser, and in the homepage, we now get the dates presented nicely. We also have our cool feature when we hover over a date. Isn't this awesome? We also display a date in the activity in the right side of the thread list items. Even though we have not fixed this feature yet, it's nice to display the date instead of the timestamp. With our base component, that's super quick to do. Here we go. Now, all our dates are displayed in a nice format, and when we hover over them, we get to see the exact times. By extracting the logic in a base component, we are now able to beautify any date in our application without repeating any of our code.